everyone, and welcome to another episode of Annual Pass. This is the podcast where we talk about all things theme park, attractions, snacks, foods, interviews, and other fun stuff, anything relating to theme parks. We'll talk about it here on Annual Pass. I am your host, Jack Pattillo, and of course, joining me as always is my beautiful, lovely, and talented co-host, Geoff Ramsey. Hi, Jeffrey.
Hi, Jack.
How you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm quite well. We're doing holiday stuff right now, so we're pre-recording this intro outro. We've already shot the interview today. We have a really, really fantastic guest on today. We have Kevin Perjurer from Defunctland.
Oh wow!
We're recording this after we've done the interview because he had he's a busy man.
It's a peer behind the veil. That's how it works with movie magic.
And you are in for a treat. We have a really, really fantastic interview with Kevin today. A little bit more deep than we typically do with Annual Pass. I usually kind of scratch the surface of stuff, and we really get into what he is into with documentaries and theme parks, and it's fascinating. I'm excited for you to hear this interview.
I have no idea how long this interview is. I think it probably ran long, like an hour and a half, but it could have easily gone twice or 3 times as long.
We absolutely got to get him back on.
Incredibly interesting, easy to talk to, and very accommodating, I'll say. He's very good at sharing, and I really appreciated his insights.
Super smart guy. To give you some context, this is coming out in January. You're watching this. This is out in January. We recorded this sometime in early December. It was 10 days after he released his new Fastpass / Line documentary.
Which you didn't stop talking about.
Have you watched
it
yet?
For those 10 days? Well, I don't know.
Okay, you need to, well, by the time this episode comes out, you should have watched it. It's fascinating. You should check it out. His Defunctland series over on YouTube, youtube.com/defunctland is great. And he was a gentleman that he reached out to me about a charity event he was doing. I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to do it. And if you want to come on Annual Pass, he's like, yeah, of course. And so it worked out. And it was just one of those things where I was like, oh, I feel like I've known this guy for years already.
Also, all of that aside, Defunctland is just a really good name.
Yeah,
it really is.
And he has a podcast. He hasn't done a podcast in a while, but his podcasts are great. The whole YouTube channel, youtube.com/defunctland. Again, go check it out. Kevin and all his work is great. Before we get to it, don't forget to follow us over on Annual Pass, _Pass on Twitter and on Instagram. Grab some merchandise. Grab a shirt or, like a pin, a poster, all of that fun stuff over at the store.roosterteeth.com. All of that supports our show, and the more of that stuff that gets picked up, the more it's easier for me to pitch more cool stuff for you guys to grab. And send in photos of you wearing the merchandise. I love seeing that. I love seeing people wearing Annual Pass stuff in parks. That makes me so happy in any sort of things. And also go to roosterteeth.com and reply in the comments and let us know what you think. But Jeff, I don't want to take up too much time because this is a long interview. This is going to be a little bit of a longer episode.
It's worth it.
Yeah, so absolutely. So without further ado, let's go talk to Kevin Perjurer, who runs Defunctland, and enjoy this. Kevin, welcome to Annual Pass.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, Jeff, I don't know if you know this, but Kevin recently released on Defunctland an awesome a documentary about Fastpass and about wait times. And it sounds like if I was like, hey, a documentary about standing in line, you'd be like, okay. It's about 90 minutes long, and it's got over 2 million views on YouTube now in like a week and a half. It's incredible.
I appreciate that. I know that you're saying this part for camera, Jack, but the I don't know if you know this. I know it because you've mentioned Kevin's documentary to me at length every time you've seen me for the past week.
Oh man,
this is at least the 12th time I've heard you talk about it.
I wish YouTube would count the views of the people that kind of explain the video to other people. Like you got 2.1 million views on the video, but then you got another 0.3 of people like at Thanksgiving explaining it to their family.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Kevin, can you talk a little bit about your video and sort of like the where it came from, and like is this something that you've been thinking about doing for a while and now you're just like, yeah, why not? Let's put it together.
Well, Defunctland does, I don't know, we probably mentioned it in the intro and I just blacked out, but we've been doing Disney documentaries, theme park documentaries, on all sorts of theme parks, Universal, we just did one on SeaWorld. So doing documentaries in the theme parks is not only common, it's actually all we do. We also have a spin-off show where we talk about children's television, so I guess that's not 100% accurate. But yeah, Defunctland is a theme park channel. If you have not heard of it, I imagine a podcast about theme parks. I hope that they have some understanding
a little bit.
Point.
Jack references you about 7 times every episode. So
yeah. Oh well, there you go. That's I haven't listened to that episode, and then everyone's gonna go, oh, apparently this guy doesn't listen to the episode, but because you were mentioned last episode, but yeah, so Defunct, we've been doing this stuff for a while, and I started out doing really kind of YouTube-y videos because it was a fascination. I'd been doing documentary work for 4 or 5 years before Defunctland. But when I started on doing Defunctland in 2017, it was very much like YouTube videos. And it was funny, and people miss them, and they say your old videos were better, and that's the classic, right. Whatever. We move on, and we kind of develop more of a style. I develop more of a style. I expand the team to include some people that really have made our production better, namely Nate Beagle, who does my audio and makes me sound very good. And he's also I brag about him because he's currently touring with Mystery Science Theater as Crow. So yeah, so we have a team of cool people, and then we started doing more ambitious things, and then we did. So like this recent season of Defunctland is all connected, and it's like one long, like winding. It starts in 1851 and goes up to present day, and we're currently stopped in like 82 because I got distracted with Fastpass. And then we also released this big feature-length documentary that Jack has never even heard of because I asked him like 2 days ago, and he was like, "What is that?" But it's on Halix, which is a band that played at Disneyland for 3 months, and it was a Star Wars Kiss knockoff, and it's a big talking head style documentary. When you hear documentary, it's what you would expect to be like interviews. And so yeah, so all that's to say is I kind of am trying to push myself to keep doing weird things. I don't want to be too in the box necessarily or fall into a format, and I think to the audience, both who like the videos and don't like the videos, can tell that it's not in a format, because recently I released a 90-minute documentary or a 102-minute documentary on waiting in line, and which I thought had to be that. It's just so funny because it's so long. Yeah, and it's about waiting in line, and that's just hilarious to me. But that's not why we made it that long. I made it that long because it's the longest story I've ever told through narration. And in general, I've done, I think, 2 or 3 feature documentaries in my lifetime, one of which you could watch on the channel, which is the Halix documentary. And I would consider this a feature documentary / essay because it does have more of a voice. I use like first person, third person, second person, where I'm like, here, I did this, you did that, versus how I usually do it, which that doesn't happen, and I'm just telling you straight facts. But it's not just a history of Fastpass. Do people know what Fastpass is?
I would think so. Jeff, you know what Fastpass is?
Yeah,
right?
I feel like we've covered it pretty.
Okay, good. Yeah,
I would hope at this point people do.
I hope so. Well, if you don't, I have a great video for you. It's essentially not just a history of Fastpass. It is a history of Fastpass. It is that, but it is also basically a dissection of industrial engineering, of queuing theory, of parks ops and management, because all the things that I mentioned up to this point have all been creative stuff. And what the channel Defunctland really dives into is the relationship between the creative people and the business people, the Imagineers, or the Cinemagicians, as Universal called them for 1 year, is the versus executives. And that kind of, we have to make a profit versus we have to make something amazing battle that happens, which is at the core of every story that I've told, except for this one, which is not creative people. It's really smart operations people, who are fighting less against executives in the beginning and more against just human nature. And so it's like a man versus nature, man versus man, man versus all the story types. It's like actually one of the few times where it's like we got to do a different type of story in the narrative format, and that's why it fascinated me so much. That's why the video blew up into such a big kind of long tail. And it's why I just was so interested, because like I said, we've done so many things on this. Imagineer had an idea and he wanted to do it like this, and an executive said that cost too much money, and then they built it anyways, and then it failed, and then it's gone, and then here's what's in its place. And that story can be told, every which way, and I've done it. And it's awesome, and that story is awesome, and it's so cool, and it has everything you'd ever want. But this one was just different, and it was so fun. But anyways, I probably am rambling too much.
Oh no!
But yeah, what was the question? At the time of recording this, I don't know when this releases. So when does this release?
This will be probably late December, maybe early January. So you got some time. So
okay,
this will be out for a while at this point.
Well,
I don't know.
Can I carbon date it, or is that like a no?
Absolutely,
man.
please, yes.
I just got done with this Fastpass video. I started it in not September, early August, maybe late July, and I worked on it for August, September, October, and then up to the day it was released, obviously, as everybody does. And then immediately started planning for a 24-hour charity stream. and it has, so if I sound a little woozy,
that's all right. I know.
If I sound a little out of it, it's because I'm kind of Doc Browning like a lot of content right now.
Nice. Just don't stand on any toilets. You'll be okay. No, we do a 24-hour charity stream at Rooster. We do Extra Life every year, and that's
well, yeah,
my
no,
baby.
I mean, so. I know you do Extra Life, so I'm like, if anybody's here to.
Yeah, I understand your pain.
My plight.
We operate in woozy fairly often as well.
Right, yeah. I just don't want to be rambling. I'm just like, I sound like Harrison Ford, like, Fastpass. I don't want to talk about damn Fastpass.
I have a question for you. I was going to ask about the timeline to creating it, but you covered that. So when you initially had this idea and you thought, I want to explore and tell this story of Fastpass, did you have any idea that it would explode into something an hour and 43 minutes long? Did you have an inkling that the story was that large, or did it kind of reveal itself to you through research?
No, and not only was it not supposed to be that large, I was convinced it was not.
Okay.
Because it was the only reason I did this, I don't think I've said this yet, is because I'm actually working on a more ambitious project right now.
Oh boy!
And so, and I've kind of already half announced it, but with Defunctland season 3, it's a 24 episode season, and halfway through we just did episode 12 like a year ago actually. Oh gosh, it's been long. Where's the time gone? But we just did episode 12, so we're halfway through, and we're doing this intermission episode where I don't talk, and it's about the development of Epcot Center, and it's done with music and images and visuals, and it's going to be really weird and ethereal and avant-garde, and it's going to be like it'd be like if you did LSD and invented Epcot, just like Epcot was invented. And I've never done LSD, so I kind of am freeballing it, but rather than speedballing it. But yeah, so that was what we've been working on for a year and a half, where we had to we got to write music, we got to get the graphics, we got to shoot on film, we got to get animation, and then I was like, you know what? We're not going to get this thing out in October, which is what I wanted to get it out in. And if we did, we'd rush it. And my rule is you don't rush things. You rush yourself, but you don't rush things out. You never make a video less good because you have to get it out. Sometimes our videos are just bad, and then we just release them because it's like, well, that's a lost cause. But if there's time to make it better, we keep doing it. So I was like, you know what? Let's push that stupid ambitious project out, and let's just do a quickie. And let's just do Fastpass because it just went defunct, and it's like a 19-minute video, and people want to hear me talk about it, and who cares?
Yeah.
And my philosophy is, and I say this before, and it's cheesy, but I believe it, is that stories don't serve us, we serve the stories in documentaries.
Yeah.
And most all mainstream documentaries, it's the other way around. The stories are serving us. We are going to make a 6-part miniseries because that stories serve us, not the other way around. But no, we serve the stories, and this story was very hungry and demanded to be its length. And I think that's why it's interesting is people watch it and they say 90 minutes on Fastpass, this is and this is not to knock any specific YouTubers because I love long form content, I really do. But there is this kind of new genre on YouTube of, I'm going to do a super long video on something that doesn't need to be this long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because of the novelty of making it long. So, and this is done especially with video essays on TV dissections especially. And I love those videos. So I'm not even knocking them, but that's the expectation people kind of have with that genre. Some people love them, and other people are starting to be like, okay, you're doing this 7-hour video on Blue's Clues, not because Blue's Clues demands a 7-hour video, but because you think it's, for whatever reason, that's the thing. Mm-hmm. So that's what people went in saying, oh, you did a 90-minute video on standing in line because you thought it was funny, which is true, but that's not why I did. It was because it demanded it. It was because, and I think people came out, hopefully, and I saw it over and over again, where they're like, I did not expect to watch that whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
No,
like,
I mean,
ooh,
it's
mission
fascinating.
accomplished.
Like you did such a great job of telling a story that's gripping. Like it pulls you in. It's like, okay. And then you catch yourself like, oh my God, I want more of this. And like, how rare is that to like watch a documentary and be like, I wish that was longer. I want more Shapeland. Like I wish there was, it's awesome. And like, it's great because, you don't think about documentaries as like having big reveals or twists or turns. And like, not to spoil anything, Jeff, there's a couple big twists in this that are like just totally caught me off guard, and I'm sure everyone else. Like, I mean, as a big theme park nerd, this is in my wheelhouse. But it seemed, I mean, obviously this is taken off, and you're getting coverage from all over the place now. People being like, "Wow, like watch this video because it's fascinating." And even if you're not a theme park person, it's still such a well done documentary that you're getting love from all over the place.
First off, if you if you spoil any of it, I'll never forgive you.
Okay, I'm not.
How has the response been outside of what you would expect, I guess? Like, have you been approached by people in the industry who you wouldn't have thought, or even just in unexpected ways and places? Because I feel like this is something so different to what you normally do and so unique, and it's obviously resonated to have 2.5 million views in 10 days. As we're a company that's existed with and through and on YouTube for almost 18, well, as long as YouTube's been around.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy feat to accomplish, and it speaks to the quality of the content that's created, and also that it resonated with an audience. And I'm just curious if you've been surprised by like who has reached out, or the kind of people that have enjoyed it that you didn't expect.
Yeah, well, I bought a lot of the views, so you have to keep.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. So a lot of these, a lot of this is Indonesia. Yeah.
So if you say hello from Indonesia, like that's the top comment, and I don't know why nobody's asked me about that yet. No, if there's actually any proof that I don't buy views, it's the fact that nobody would stop talking about this video on Twitter. So those are real people, which is great. But I almost got self-conscious. I've never had this response, to answer your question. And it's been so great because I've always felt that I deserve this response.
That is the best answer I've ever heard, by the way.
As an arrogant, egotistical documentary filmmaker that is on YouTube making videos about roller coasters, I always felt that this is because I'm a pretentious ex-film school kid. I didn't even graduate from film school, but I was in film school. I make documentaries. And if I stop the sentence there, you're like, oh, you know who I am. But then if I explain that I make YouTube videos about roller coasters, you're like, oh, well, then maybe you're not. But no, I am so, and this is a tangent, and I don't know how short this interview you expect this to be.
Go as long as you want.
But when people say like, wow, the response to this has been humbling. I have experienced the exact opposite. My ego is so high right now. Like, I don't know why people say that. Like, oh, I just hit, 2 million views. It's so humbling. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because, like, I feel amazing. And I've, anyway.
I mean, you should be proud of your work.
You absolutely should. Yeah.
Well, I'm just glad. But in all seriousness, and fake ego aside, like it was amazing, and I really do mean that. Like, I feel that every video has the potential for this. I'm not saying they all deserve it, but I pack every video with as much like meaning and intention, and that's filmmaking. Sometimes I don't think the audience catches on. And you can blame that on me as a communicator. Sometimes we can blame it on YouTube as an algorithm. You can blame it on this or that. And other videos have had a similar response where it's been like, wow, like it's just, I think the good thing about this one was it's so in your face with the work, and others, the work is more under the hood. Because if I'm telling you a story about, like the Imagineering, just as much research might have gone into it. But it just seems like I'm telling you a story, and that's successful. That's a good job. It shouldn't always look like I'm sweating and I'm tired and I'm sleepy, that kind of video essayist, like that kind of devolution that a lot of video essays go in, where at the end they're like, I've watched so much Blue's Clues, I'm crazy now. And it's like, yeah, we've seen it, we get it. It's great, I watch them. But, but this one is that because of, not to spoil anything, the math. And also just because it was kind of a daunting idea. And so like the response has just been so great, because on top of the fact that I feel like, oh, I put this much effort into every video, which is kind of how I feel, this one did require more effort. So does that kind of make sense? Because it's like people are like, wow, this is your magnum opus, and I'm like, I understand why you say that. I hope not. But it's also like I put this much effort into every video. This one was just because of the format. It was like more of like, you could see the blood and the sweat and the tears on the screen versus everything else is under the hood. So I that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like, when people love it, but other times, and this is kind of the opposite of that coin, and this just goes into less about theme parks. So I'm really sorry if this is not what you're looking for.
Oh no, it's fascinating.
But it's like, I do a 20-minute video on. I did a Handwich video where it was like 20 minutes, and it was on Disney's Sandwich of the Future, and I put a ton of effort into that. But at the end of it, I looked at it and I was like, this is not my favorite episode I've ever done. This is kind of like a gimmicky. I wanted to do a cooking show, like all those kind of things about it, and I was like, this is good, and I'm putting my stamp of approval. And then people were like, this is the best episode you've ever done. And it came like less than a year after we released a 90-minute documentary where we had to travel around and interview people and spend a year editing it. And then like the one that I did in the middle of my move where I was in front of a green screen making a sandwich of the future, people were like, this is your magnum opus. So that's the opposite side of the coin where I'm like, stop. No, this one did take less effort. It's interesting, kind of the meter of what people expect.
Yeah, well, it's also one of those things like when you release something out to the wild, it's like it's no longer yours. It's like
it kind of takes on
the audience
death
decides.
Death of an author, and that's fine. And I subscribe to that mentality, and that's where it's like any failure. I mean, like, I'm never upset that people think it's a great video. It's just kind of funny when I make a video on making a cone-shaped sandwich, and they say, like, this is the height of your art. And I'm like, didn't I just release a 90-minute film?
Yeah.
But anyways.
A new team, a new mission, all in the name of peace. Peacemaker is about exploring the origins of Peacemaker himself. John Cena's character in James Gunn's 2021 film, The Suicide Squad. Peacemaker is a vainglorious guy who believes in peace at any cost, no matter how many people he has to kill to get it. The series also stars Danielle Brooks as Adebayo, Freddie Stroma as Vigilante, Jennifer Holland as Harcourt, Chukwudi Iwuji as Myrn, Steve Agee as Economos, and Robert Patrick as Augie Smith. Stream new episodes of Peacemaker on HBO Max starting January 13th, and listen to Podly, the Peacemaker podcast, on HBO Max, the HBO Max and DC YouTube channels, or wherever else you get your podcasts. And if you want to rock some sweet Peacemaker merch, head on over to shop.dccomics.com for the latest drops. In case you want to dive deeper into these characters and the world of Peacemaker, DC Universe Infinite's Peacemaker comics are free to read with registration. Make sure to catch Peacemaker on HBO Max and hbomax.com/peacemaker, and tune in to the official podcast, Podly. I will say it's refreshing to hear that take, because as a company, that's almost 19 years old in this space, made our first video in 2003, we get asked these kinds of questions a lot, and very often I give the answer that more often than not, my favorite video I've ever made in the history of Rooster Teeth, or the favorite piece of content I've ever made, is generally the most recent thing I've made, because we put the same kind of love and effort into everything that we do, and we feel like we're iteratively improving as we go. And it's not 100% of the case that I'm going to feel that way, but more often than not it is. And when I give that answer, people roll their eyes and they think I'm blowing smoke, but it's honestly true for us. And it's great to hear you intimate something similar. Because I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, I mean,
I think. Go ahead.
Like everything you do, it should be. I mean, you should be able to prove. I mean, that's the thing when people talk about
and that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. When people are like, "Oh, like how do I get into filmmaking?" or like, "What do I do?" Like, I want to be an editor. I'm like, just start editing stuff because your next project's going to be better than the one you're working on, and just make stuff, and that's how you get better. And you see it every now and then, but like nothing drives me crazier than when someone's like, "Oh, here's my portfolio," and there's 3 things in it, and it's like, "Where's the rest?" Like, well, that's all of it. And it's like. No, you should have 50 things, of which maybe 30 aren't great, but it's like I can see progress and I can see improvement, and so
it's and with this, and I'll say, and all that's to say is like the Handwich video, and some of the other stuff we've done. this was kind of, and I agree. I think your recent stuff should be your favorite thing, because what are you doing if it's not?
Yeah.
If you're working for somebody else, maybe that's not the case. But if you're leading something creatively, and the thing you're working on you're not that passionate about, if you're not more passionate about than the last thing, I think that happens a lot with people that aren't really necessarily inside the creative process, and it sounds kind of ego. All this, if you're not inside the creative process, probably sounds like I'm an egomaniac, which I am, but I'm not trying to come across as that. I don't think I'm good at video. I think I'm really good at sports, but I'm not. My ego's just misplaced. So the point being is your most recent thing should be your favorite thing. This one, though, I will say, because I wrote the music, I did the animation, I did the narration, I did this, that, and everything else. And this was such a kind of a tornado of everything that I've learned as an artist. I've used every program that I understand how to use. I 7 different editing programs. I'm not editing, but Logic and Final Cut and Audition and every suite of things that I've ever touched. And it did come together in this way where after I watch it now, and I'm like, wow. I go on the video and I skip to my favorite parts and I watch them because they hit for me. And that's partly because of the sleep paralysis, but also because I'm just super proud of it, more than other videos, because I release other videos, I'm like, wow, that's really cool, or there's moments that I like, but this one was long, and I sat with it for so long, and there were times where, the revenue dip that happens when you don't release a video for 3 months, and I'm having anxiety, and I literally couldn't sleep at night. And I was like, okay, well, I got to get a video out. I got people I have people to take care of. I have to take care of people. I have a place to live that I need to continue to live in. And I just need to get this stupid Fastpass video out. And there's no way you can put it in perspective because it sounds so silly, but it's also my livelihood. And it's this weird kind of mix. And I love it. And I'm not complaining because it is the thing that if I traveled back in time and told my 5-year-old self what I was doing, he would think I'm the coolest person in the world.
Yeah.
Because that's the 2 things that he loved. He loved making movies, and he always wanted to make movies, and he loved theme parks. I wanted a show as a kid where I would travel the country and review playgrounds. Find the coolest, that was honestly for a year, how you change as a kid, but for a year that was my go-to answer. I was like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a show where I went around and reviewed which slides were the best and which monkey bars were the coolest. And that's not that far off from what I do now.
Yeah.
And that is so great. So this is all to say, I'm not complaining at all. And I just am so happy with the response because, and that was all actually just kind of me trying to set it up. But in other videos, when people say this is your magnum opus, or when people, because that's just a common phrase people throw around. It's not I'm Picasso or anything. But it's this one, when people complimented it, it meant so much more because it touched on everything I am as an artist. It took 3 months. 3 months is a long time in YouTube to be working on one specific thing. And just the absolute tumultuous process that I had to go through, and I can get into it. I don't know where you want this to go. The tumultuous process that I had to go through to get it out, because it was a 15,000 word script. We probably cut 3,000 words. It was
wow.
I restructured it 20,000 times. It was an entirely different format. 90% of the jokes that are in 90%. I write if I write 100% of the jokes, 20% of them make it into the cut. Mm-hmm. And the best thing, best compliments I get are the ones that are super specific. All the jokes are supernatural. That's great because I cut 8 out of 10 of them, because they weren't natural.
Yeah.
And it's just, and things that go into my style and my philosophy, and it's different for everybody, but it's really affirming to have this response. And on your question, which I haven't answered, but it's been 15 minutes, so I should. Yes, I have gotten some interesting responses from people. What's been really great to hear, and I always try to do whatever I'm doing justice, the kind of my rule of thumb, because I am critical, because as a documentarian, it's impossible to be completely unbiased. And if you're me, then you're not even close. Completely unbiased. I'm obviously biased. I love theme parks. I'm never going to be a video Disney, why would somebody go? I'm not Discovery Channel. I would never be it's do you really want to go be sweaty? Obviously we've reached, everybody has a little bias, but I have a stamp of bias in that I love these environments. But, my kind of rule of thumb is anybody that makes over $1 billion, over $10 million, they're fair game as far as making fun of them. because they could cry to their bed of Scrooge McDuck bath money or whatever the hell they're doing. Like, you know, like that is my rule. And I know that's a very like, you know, like class-based thing to do, but that is my like philosophy. I'm like, okay, like I sent some jabs at Michael Eisner. He just bought like a soccer team because he felt like it.
He also might buy the Phoenix Suns basketball team, NBA
he
team.
Can, he's fine. If I say, oh, you did a bad job for 7 years and you were great for the first 5 or whatever, like who cares?
Yeah.
Or if I make fun of Bob Iger, Bob Chapek, or whoever. But what I really am really like passionate about is the unsung hero, the underdog. And like everybody is, and I think that's why. I mean, and not only am I passionate about it, just in terms of I'm making documentaries or video essays, whatever you want to call them. They're documentaries, but like I mean, don't call them video essays. This recent one's the most video essay thing I've ever done. But like trying to like represent people is important because they are real and they exist, and I can't just put up a photo of some steel worker that built Big Thunder Mountain and be like, look at this guy's ugly face. What is with this guy? Like, and he because his kids are gonna watch it.
Yeah.
and if Michael Eisner kids watch it, then they can like call their butler in or whatever. Like, sorry, Breck, if you're listening. But like at the end of the day, I want to represent those people, the steelworkers, the Imagineers, even everybody that like is unsung. And what was great about this video is I got to shine a light on an industry that I don't think I've even heard about before. And like obviously I knew it existed, but like I've heard about, talked about in media, which is industrial engineering, which is this entire subsection of in engineering, which does not have anything to do with mechanical or electrical or anything structural. It is the psychology and the engineering of people. And that's what makes this video so fascinating, I think, and so accessible because you've stood in line.
That's exactly it. Like everyone, like I think the reason why, or for me, the reason why this hits a lot harder is because this is, you know, everyone's done this. Everyone's been to a theme park. Everyone's waited in line, and like, you know, you see the Fastpass lines, like, oh, they're getting ahead of me, and it's like, I wonder if that's actually affecting us. And you're answering those questions, and like that's such a cool thing because it is modern history, and you're diving into it with easy, you know, relatable facts and ideas, and I think that's why it hit so hard for me again. It's because it's like, oh, yeah, I've been there. Like, is that guy getting into more rides than I am? Like, yeah, maybe he is. And you've kind of proved that using math and knowledge and interviews.
And to answer the question that was asked 30 minutes ago now, I think, I really like that I had a lot of industrial engineers reach out and say, wow, I feel so vindicated. I feel so seen. And like, of all the groups of people to have representation, I'm sure they're like number 75,000 on the list. But hey, that's still cool. Like, you know, I'm like the nerds, the people like doing, you know, Q theory. They don't always get a blockbuster.
Yeah.
And so it's cool. Now they got one, I think. So like, and that's what I really like is when, and I've had some people from Disney and cast members, and that's really great too, of being like, and I've had some people that work in ops and be like, thank you, because these people deal with the worst people. And so to have a video about that is really fun. And that's kind of where, like, you know, like industry people, like as far as the film industry, I'll always love when people like that make things that I like say good things about me. And that's a good thing for anybody. I mean, that's like, oh, I love this person's comedy or I love their films, and they just said they like my stuff, and oh wow, it's full circle, I can die now, and it's fine. But like, if I was really thinking about it, as much as that's great for, you know, the artist ego, and just as not even ego, just like as a, oh wow, that's really special to me that somebody like that. It's even more special to be like, I told a story about someone, about a group of people, and I did a good job. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I did a good job, and these people from this group, industrial engineers or cast members or operations, this group that is not always seen, they're always working, that's the best compliment, that's the best feedback of being like, wow, you really did a good job of representing my difficult position in this mess of whatever well. And that's cool, and that's what I really like. If I was really thinking about it, I'm like, okay, that's what I want to do as an artist or even as a YouTuber, whatever you want to call me. It's like I want to be able to represent those people, and I want those people to be able to watch it and say, you did a good job. Again, probably not perfect, but I tried really hard, and so I'm glad that it paid off in that way.
No, I mean, yeah, to me, you did a fantastic job, and you should be proud of yourself and the work you've made. It's absolutely incredible. And Geoff, I implore you to watch this documentary.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited to, if for only to see what all the industrial engineers are talking about behind the scenes. This is on the surface maybe not the sexiest topic, but I have a feeling it's quite fascinating.
It's sexy. I said that. I was like, I'm going to make this so sexy. And I literally did. And it's funny you said sexy. I'm not even just saying this to be funny. None of this was to be funny, so I don't know why everybody's laughing. But I don't understand humor. But the sex, I was like, I'm going to make a line sexy. And that's why it starts with kind of like a sultry, like, how much do you know about lines? And then balls. And then, I mean, if you haven't seen it, I sound like I'm at the end of my road. Did you want to talk about Fastpass or like theme parks or anything?
I mean, yeah, sure. We can talk about why not?
Did you have any more questions on that?
No, I mean, obviously, you were into theme parks, I imagine, as a kid, right? And so, I mean, at what point did you be like, or did you think to yourself, like, this is something I can make a career out of? Like, this is something where I could focus exclusively on theme parks? Because even for like Annual Pass, we've only been around for 6 months now. And it's something that like is sort of a passion project for me. And it's been nice to watch it grow. And, taking that leap is got to be tough. And for like, how did you make that jump?
The jump from...
I mean, like to make this into your career. I mean, like how did you turn theme parks into a career, or at least making documentaries about theme parks into a career?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was like any YouTuber you will ever hear that is successful that I've heard. They did not go into it to make money. And that's the story I've heard over and over again, is they did it because they loved it and they had a passion for it, and then the money came as a result, and then they decided to make it a half-time job or a full-time job, and then they ended up resenting it, and then they quit. And I'm halfway through that journey. But it was like, I love theme parks. I've always been, because I grew up in Kansas City, and we have Worlds of Fun. And Worlds of Fun is my home park, and it's not the best theme park. It's fine. Yeah, it's not. It's an amusement park. And so I got to go to Disney, I think 5 times as a kid. 3 times to Disneyland, and then twice to Walt Disney World. And the Walt Disney World trips was like the biggest thing to ever happen in I have family in California, but the Florida trips were like the biggest thing in my childhood. Like, if there was a peak of like the height of my excitement as a kid, there were 2 peaks, and that was going to Walt Disney World twice throughout my childhood. And I think a lot of people expect me to be a Florida local, or they expect me to be an Anaheim local, or they expect me to have gone every year, like we were a trip a year people. And it's like, nope. We were middle America. We went twice, and we're very fortunate. That's not everybody can go twice. Not everybody can go once. So I understand that I'm not complaining by any means, but I was not as exposed to it in that era. But yeah, so I went twice as a kid, and it was the best times. But then I would go back, and I would have to rely on media, early internet eventually, right? They had forums to the late 90s that started to come out. But before that, it was a lot of books. It was a lot of newspapers. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of, anything I could get my hands on, like, Time Magazine might do a feature, and I grab it, and I just was so obsessed with theme parks and the idea of theme parks, despite not having as much exposure to it. Or they had these vacation planning VHSs. Oh yeah. And so that's how I experienced it. And in a way, I think, and then I became a documentarian, and then I found my way back to that. But in a way, it was like, the media I create is like the next step in that, where it's like a lot of people that watch the channel don't go to theme parks, or haven't been in a while, or don't even like them, which is interesting. But I think the videos lend themselves well to that person too. But it was like, again, like talking to my younger self, and I never want to sound like I'm ever complaining or ungrateful. What I do is extremely difficult. It is extremely intensive. I'm exhausted. I should not have to work this hard doing this. In order to do what we do, I do. And at the end of the day, a day making theme park videos is better than a day doing literally any job, in my opinion. And I'm so eternally grateful. Like even staying up for 23 hours to edit a Fastpass video. I'm tired. I'm grumpy. I'm exhausted. Like, I'm grateful, because what a great niche to be in. And I'm just so happy. but yeah, so like, but I think that Defunctland and kind of what I do is like the next step in that, like, it's kind of like, and the vloggers are especially this now, but like, oh, you can't go to the theme parks every day because you don't live here, and you can't go there every year because maybe you can't afford it, or maybe you go other places, or maybe you can't go at all. But like, this is art, and it's an industry, but it's a medium of art. And like, if you're not around it, you can't experience it unless you take it through a second medium of art. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Theme parks are the final medium of art. Film, and I've said this 1,000 times, so if somebody came for me and knows who I am, I'm sorry. This is all repeat. But like, you know, like, if film is the final medium of art because it combines sculptures, art, illustrations, video, sound, music. You know, that's the final medium of art, the final frontier of art. It's not though, right? Because theme parks are the final immersive media that actually takes filmmaking and adds real life environments, live lighting. It's the mix between Broadway and film, and in that it creates the final medium of now you're actually here experiencing every medium of art at once. And if you can't go that often, you can only hear about it secondhand. And so being able to be one of the channels, both literally and like in the medium sense, to take this art form and kind of project it to people that can't always get there, like I was as a kid, is extremely satisfying.
Yeah.
I'm very long-winded. Am I going to get in trouble?
No.
Am I going to get tweets? I realized how long-winded I am. I'm sorry.
No, it's beautiful. I mean, that's the same sort of it's sharing passion. I mean, like, you are sharing your passion for theme parks across your content, which is exactly what I like to think we're doing here on Annual Pass. It's like, I am passionate. I love this. Like, it holds a special place in my heart. And if I can share that little piece of myself with an audience, like, I hope that energy and that love comes across. And obviously, I feels that you're very similar in that fact. Like, you wouldn't be making these videos about theme parks if you didn't absolutely love theme parks and want to spread that love.
Yeah, you're definitely talking to kindred spirits. I mean, the entire company that we work for was created out of a love for one video game and wanting to celebrate that video game, Halo, and that's essentially what we have done, is created a network of properties that just allow us to explore our intense love and fandoms of things. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also I should point out, like, more than just believing in them as an art form, and more than just believing in them as a fan or somebody that I'm a hyperfixator. Like, I learned juggling just because I got really into juggling. So if we ever meet in person, I'll probably be juggling if you meet me in the next 3 months. And then it'll be probably those card tricks before that. Like, I get hyperfixated on things, which should come as no surprise to anyone if you know me or don't know me and you heard that I made a 90-minute video on Fastpass. But you know, it's I believe in them more than just a hyperfixator or a fan, or even as an art form. I believe in this as more tied into who we are as people, specifically who we are as Americans, and who we are as a culture, and how tied it is to history. And if you've seen Defunctland, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I would highly recommend watching it, because Fastpass, the video culminates into a discussion that you probably don't see coming before clicking on the video, and hopefully you see set up throughout the video. A question that is more than just a question of aren't theme parks sweaty, or aren't they hot, or aren't there a lot of people? It's like, okay, well, what does this mean on a cultural perspective? What does this mean on a societal perspective? We did a video on Adventure Through Inner Space, which was an old ride at Disneyland. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I probably have. I've gone through most of your catalog.
Okay. We released it at the beginning of this year, and that one was a video about this ride that taught you about atoms and molecules, but it was sponsored by Monsanto at the same time that Monsanto was poisoning the forests of Vietnam during the war, because they were the main manufacturer of Agent Orange along with Dow Chemical. But they were sponsoring a ride about chemicals at Disneyland. They had a song called Miracles from Molecules while they were using molecules to cause irreparable harm that is still happening to this day. And that is kind of the thesis, is it's like, the core of theme parks is about escapism. Yeah. And the irony of my show is that it's impossible. And any attempts to really do true escapism so far have done the opposite. They've influenced our culture. They've influenced who we are. If I say Main Street, everybody in this country knows what image comes into their mind, whether it's the literal Main Street or not. But that image, when I say Main Street, that image that comes into your mind, everybody on every corner of this country and even probably the world thinks of the same exact ideal. And that came not from a collective understanding of what a Main Street is, but it came from the fact that Disneyland was a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Two people shaped America, in my opinion, in small town America, Norman Rockwell and Walt Disney. Two people shape what we think of when we think of the Wild West, if you want to call it that, the Old West. Buffalo Bill Cody and Walt Disney. Who met Buffalo Bill Cody? Two people shaped the current view of the future that was created in the 50s. Werner von Braun and Walt Disney. And Walt Disney and Werner von Braun were like friends, and also he was a Nazi. But the point is that like that's the point, right? It's that these theme parks, like you can engage with them on any level that you want, but if we're going to do documentaries about them, it's come in, let's explore these topics to their fullest extent, and sometimes that means creating a 90-minute video on standing in lines. Sometimes that means doing a really weird Full Metal Jacket parody when I'm supposed to be talking about a Disneyland ride. You know, sometimes, and that's what I'm so grateful that I get to do this. But I also want to keep pushing people to think about theme parks like this because. Every other art form gets so much credit. I think music gets too much credit in its impact almost. It's very impactful, but like music and movies, and yes, we know but like, do you not understand, like whether you go or not, everything that you think is framed by these immersive environments that were created. Probably less so Universal. But SeaWorld, anyways, all that's to say is like, that's my belief. That's my pitch. As far as as not just for the channel, obviously, but for theme parks in general. And obviously, I don't know why I'm saying any of this, because if you're listening to this podcast, you probably already get the gist. So, never mind.
It's definitely one of those things that people, I'm sure, think about, but they don't realize the full, the gravitas behind it. It's like, there's a lot to this, It's like, well, yeah, I guess it did influence, what I think of modern retro future. And
it's just fascinating to peel back the layers.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It really is.
More people probably came up with retro future than just Werner von Braun and Walt Disney. But True. Buffalo Bill Cody and Walt Disney are the only ones that shaped the West. I stand and Norman Rockwell and Walt Disney. That's anyways, but yeah.
Well,
don't tweet at me.
Kevin, thank you so much for coming on today, dude. If I don't know if you've done a great movie ride episode yet, but if you ever want to do a great movie ride episode, I will go on, and I would love to talk to you for hours and hours about my experience on Great Movie Ride. But I guess as a defunct ride at this point, but
it's on the slate.
Awesome, excellent. Well, dude, thank you so much. Check out all of Kevin's amazing work over at Defunctland on YouTube. You have anything else you want to pitch or promote while we're here?
Yeah, do you have 30 minutes? I'm so sorry. I feel so bad. I just I haven't been interviewed in so long.
Yeah.
And
you have a lot to say, and it's great. It's fascinating. I love it.
But I interview people every day, and my philosophy with interviews is shut up. That's like, it's like nobody's here, and I just don't say anything unless I need to move the conversation along. Uh-huh. And it's just so like anxiety inducing being on the other side of that, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not the guest. I'm like, oh wait, no, I am the guest.
Yeah.
So that's probably fine this time.
Take it at your own pace. Well,
yeah,
awesome.
Anyway, so apologies. But yes, youtube.com/defunctland.
Uh-huh.
And then twitter.com/defunctland, and anything /defunctland, you'll probably find us. We are, if you're interested in Epcot or Walt Disney World, we've got some amazing Epcot content heading up. And also, I should give a quick pitch, while I have you hostage, for, my Defunct TV spinoff series, which we cover, as passionate as I am about theme parks, I'm almost just as passionate, if not more, about, public television and even cable television directed at children, and how that has also shaped us as people. We've done videos on all sorts of different things. So also check out our side series, whether you're a 90s kid or an 80s kid or 70s kid, I think we have something for everybody. And just talking about culture and kids media, I guess. So youtube.com/defunctland. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us here on Annual Pass. We really appreciate it. And we'll love to have it back on in the future. I'm sure you might have a few more things to say, I bet.
Yeah, no, I think I'm just gonna black out now. but I appreciate it. But yeah, please have me on again, and have me. If you want to have me on and have me not talk about myself, I'll be more focused. I promise.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll bring you on for a specific attraction
about what inspires me. It gets me all giddy inside. But I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, you have yourself a good day, sir, and congratulations on your success.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right,
take care.
Jeff, I feel like we had to stop, but I feel like we could have kept going for a long time.
He had a lot of really fascinating stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Just even there at the end where he's like, oh yeah, Walt Disney has shaped the minds and brains. It's like what you think about space is probably because of Walt Disney. What you think about the Old West is probably because of Walt Disney. It's like, how do you end with that? Like that.
I know. It's one of those conversations that now I'm going to be like, it's going to be in the back of my head itching at me for weeks.
Yeah. So we'll have to get him back on at some point in the future and talk more about that stuff. So again, thank you very much to Kevin Perjurer for joining us. Go check him out, youtube.com/defunctland. Go watch the Fastpass/line video. I mean, it's an hour and a half, but it is riveting. It's about lines, and he somehow made it sexy. It's awesome. It's so good. Go check it out, Jeff. Hopefully by the time this has come out, you've watched it.
Obviously.
So because that interview did run long, I'm not going to do a Q&A during this episode, so we'll save that for later. But I will ask you, the audience, a question. So again, like we do every single week, I ask a question of you, and what you think about. Like I love reading comments, and everything. But I ask you a question, you answer in the comments over on Rooster Teeth, and I'm going to randomly select someone and send an autographed park map to. So my question for you, this feels appropriate for this, is what defunct attraction would you like to see a documentary made about? Like what would you like to do a deep dive into on something that no longer exists?
I'm currently really interested in the way you said documentary a second ago.
Yeah? How did I say it?
It was like documentary. So I wouldn't mind if you did a deep dive on that.
Dude, I would love to see a documentary about, or it's like a really a deep dive into Great Movie Ride.
Yeah.
Which I mean, there's a lot of history and stuff, but I would love to talk to the Imagineers, the designers, people who worked on that, just because that's my favorite attraction of all time. And I worked there. I'm very biased for it, but I'd love to see some really, really cool stuff about that. So I would love to talk about it too. So anyway, let us know what you would like to see in the comments over at Rooster Teeth, or just leave us a nice message. It's always good. I go through and I read them all. So thank you very much. And the more comments you put in there, the more it looks like, people listen to the show, which is good. So please let us know. Please spread the word as well, because podcasts live and die based on word of mouth. And so it's very important that you spread the word.
It could not be more true for this company and through the history of our company. Rooster Teeth and all of its subsidiary properties in this big familial umbrella that we have exists really solely because of, since day one, word of mouth.
Yeah, the community.
Like, this entire business was built off of the community and word of mouth.
Yeah.
So I think it's impossible to overstate the importance.
Yeah. And so thank you very much again. Our pass holder community has been great. We really, really do appreciate it. It's been fun. Like, because of that, it's the reason why we can do like video content as well now. So it's all because of you guys. So again, the video content, youtube.com/annual pass. Go check us out over there. Give us a subscription as well. And, feel free to spread the word. And my goal is to start popping up in related videos for Defunctland. Like if you watch one of his videos, maybe we pop up over there, and who knows? Maybe someday we'll make it happen. Anyway, so that'll do it for today. Thank you very much, everyone. Again, thank you very much to Kevin for joining us for this episode. It was great. It was like fantastic guest. Hopefully, you guys dug this. A little bit different episode, a little bit more kind of a highbrow kind of episode for Annual Pass.
You liked it. You dug it.
But let us know in the comments. That's going to do it for us today. We love you guys. Please take care of yourselves, stay safe, and we'll see you very soon. Bye.
Bye.